Today is the day. The doors of the Suncrest Stake Center in Orem, Utah are open. The family is inside. The live stream is running. And somewhere in a church in Utah County, the Osmond family is saying goodbye to the man who started everything. Alan Ralph Osmond, born June 22, 1949 in Ogden, Utah, died April 20, 2026 in Lehi, Utah, age 76. The public funeral service began at noon on Saturday, May 2, and what is unfolding inside that building is everything you would expect from a family that has spent 60 years making music together, and everything you wouldn't expect from a celebrity funeral. Because this is not a celebrity funeral. This is a family burying their father, their brother, their patriarch, the man they all called number one. Let's start with this morning, because the viewing that ran from 10:00 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., the final opportunity for the public to stand in the same room as Alan Osmond one last time, was the moment that set the tone for everything that followed. People came from across Utah County, fans who had driven hours, church members who had served alongside him in wards and stakes across the region, members of the MS community who had held on to his words, "I may have MS, but MS does not have me," through their own hardest days. Former missionaries who had served in countries that Alan and Susan's family had sent children to: Denmark, Chile, South Africa, Spain, Paraguay, Brazil, Ghana, Japan, Nicaragua, Michigan, and beyond. They stood in line, they moved slowly, they reached the casket, and they said what they came to say silently in the language of grief that needs no words, that a man who spent his whole life giving deserved to have people come and acknowledge it, in person, on a Saturday morning in May, in a church in Orem, Utah. And then at noon, the funeral service began. His 8 sons were in that room: Michael, Nathan, Doug, David, Scott, John, Alex, Tyler. 8 men who grew up watching their father choose joy over bitterness through 40 years of progressive multiple sclerosis, who watched him wake in the middle of the night to write lyrics on paper because the music inside him never stopped, who watched him tuck himself in on what his son Scott described as a pretty bad day and still say at the end of it, "This was a wonderful day." That detail, the one that Scott shared in the days before the service, is the detail that captures Alan Osmond more completely than any award or album or television credit ever could. A man at the end of a hard day, physical pain, limitations that have been accumulating for 4 decades, his son asking if he's comfortable, and the answer: "This was a wonderful day." His son David said he was a mountain of a man, with a firm foundation of faith that drove him in everything he did. His son Alex remembered the difficult days, the private ones, the ones where nobody was watching, and said, when he thought he was alone and had every reason to complain and just be angry, "I can't think of an instance when I saw him not choose to be happy. Not perform happiness, not suppress sadness for an audience, choose happiness as a deliberate, daily, faith-grounded act of will." That is the man his son stood up to honor today. And their presence in that room, 8 of them, the Eagle Scout awards all earned, the missions all served, is itself the eulogy, the proof that a man who built something real raised people who carry it forward. His son Nathan said it plainly and with the specific warmth of someone who has heard his father described 100 different ways. He's got so many titles: Osmondo Bizarro, Mr. Stadium of Fire, a force of nature. We call him Father. We call him Father. In that room today, that is the title that matters most. The song his sons performed at the service was "I May Never Pass This Way Again." The choice is not accidental, because Alan Osmond understood maybe better than anyone in his family that each moment of life is singular, that you do not get to go back and do the performance over, that the person standing beside you right now will not always be standing there. And so you show up, fully, completely, with everything you have, because you may never pass this way again. He lived that, every day, for 40 years of MS, for 60 years of music, for 50 years of marriage to Suzanne, For every Eagle Scout meeting and temple session and reply all email to 250 people on his son's mission email thread, because he wanted every one of those people to hear what he had to say. That song in that room, sung by his sons, is the most complete expression of Alan Osmond's philosophy that any musical performance could offer. But wait, let me ask you something. Have you ever sat with someone in their final chapter and watched them be more fully themselves than they were at any other point in their life, where the stripping away of what they could no longer do somehow revealed more clearly who they had always been? That is what Alan Osmond's sons describe when they talk about these final years. The MS took the stage, it took the road, it took the physical mobility, it took the performance capacity, but it never touched the faith, never touched the joy, never touched the specific, stubborn, unshakable conviction that today, whatever today held, was a wonderful day. That is the man in the casket. And that is the man being buried today in Spanish Fork Cemetery with military honors. Because Alan Osmond served in the Army National Guard. He was a soldier. And today the military honors reflect the full picture of a life that was never just about music. And then, after the burial, his sons have promised something that is the most Alan Osmond possible ending to this day. Something to light up the sky. He co-founded Stadium of Fire in 1981. He believed, without apology, that there was no such thing as too many fireworks. That joy should be visible from a distance. That celebration should be loud enough to reach the people who need it most. His sons are lighting something up for him today, at the graveside, in Spanish Fork, in the Utah sky above the cemetery where the man who made fireworks an annual tradition for over 40 years is being laid to rest. That is not a small gesture. That is a family saying he believed the sky should be full of light, and so we are filling it, one last time for him. The family statement asked that donations go to the missionary fund of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, not flowers, missions. Because Alan Osmond's instinct, even in the final arrangements of his own funeral, was to send something outward, to keep the work going, to open more doors for the next person who needs to walk through them. He started by singing to raise money for his brother's hearing aids. He ended by directing his own funeral donations toward sending missionaries into the world. The circle is complete. The funeral is live. The sons are in the building. The sky above Spanish Fork will be lit tonight, and a family that has spent 60 years making music together is making one final sound of grief and gratitude and faith for the man who taught them how. He lived so beautifully. Rest well, Alan. June 22, 1949, April 20, 2026. Thank you for watching.